Hi everyone, today is September 30th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is GreenRanger.
And I'm DeckTech.
And GX is finally here. It's been pretty much a month of waiting for it, and we were inundated with new content, new rewards, new cards, new characters, and we've just been playing the game a lot. We couldn't put the app down, couldn't put our phones down, couldn't do other things with our phones. It's just been a really great time, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've had a great time. Unfortunately, I've been pretty swamped at work as well, so it's mostly been auto-dueling for me, but it's been a lot of auto-dueling. I actually used, what are they called? The orbs. For...
Oh, yeah.
The one of the few times that I've actually used them, I've used a bunch of orbs. So, we're going to talk about all the various things that are going on so I can get more into what I'm doing then. And since we have so much to talk about, I'm going to defer the rest of my week in the Duel World to you. Great. What did you do this week?
King of Games.
Yeah, you did.
I did. And you're the only one who knows my struggle, I guess. It wasn't much of a struggle as other people have, because I didn't realize how much people play the game and how much they grind the ladder. But even in Hearthstone, I don't do that. I just play Arena in Hearthstone, and I just don't have the ability to play a ton of ranked, the same deck over and over again. And I finally got King of Games. Last week I was Legend 3, and then at some point, I think Tuesday or someday, I fell back to Legend 2, and I was about to quit. And I took a day off when GX came out, and then I got 5 in a row back to Legend 3, and then I took another day off, and then I got 5 in a row yesterday to get the King of Games. Overall, 145 games, maybe about 80 of them in Legend. I was in Legend. I was primarily playing Red Eye Zombie and Psychics. Eventually, the Psychics kind of fell out because people started putting in Ultimate Providence, which was more punishing to Psychic decks because you would lose your monster and that was it. There's no way to bring it back. So then I got all the gem rewards from GX. So then I decided to buy some packs, and I got some of the new cards, and I decided to tweak the Red Eye Zombie deck to win. The last 5 games were mostly Red Eye's Balance that I faced, but there was an Ice Barrier deck, and there was actually also a Psychic deck that Keith played for some reason, so I guess I got a free win from that.
Restart, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But I didn't see the point if you didn't turn the things into skeletons in the graveyard. I just didn't see how that would be good, but I've heard of it. So yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Red Eyes right now. I know that we're all sick of Red Eyes at this point, but it's possible that the deck doesn't really go away entirely with the new meta. I think it will always be a competitive deck in some degree until a lot of new cards come out, right? I think so.
Yeah, until there's some sort of shift to make the core Red Eyes engine no longer viable, it's going to be at least tier 2 because it's just a very powerful engine. So I agree with your assessment that it's still probably going to be relevant. And also, even if it weren't, I think you get a little bit of rights to chat about how you got to King of Games. So go for it.
Great. So first of all, Red Eyes is a bit of a spectrum. You could go all in with the regular Red Eyes. You can have a Red Eye Zombie, or you could go full Zombie with no regular Red Eyes. And my version is pure Zombie. The Red Eye Zombies are all pretty much the same structure, but it depends on what cards you have. So if you don't have a 3 of something, you would substitute it with something else. And some of the last things I did to get to King of Games was to use my last SR ticket. I was being cheap, and I wasn't cashing in my 100-win SR ticket. So I got a Red Eyes Insight, my 3rd one, and I finally opened the Bacon Saver from the new set because I went through 100 packs and I did not get a Bacon Saver. And that card showed up in my last version, so I guess I had to thank for that. And I took a card from my collection, Anti-Magic Arrows, which I wasn't using before. So those 3 cards did make a difference. So let's talk about the core of Red Eye Zombie. You need 3 Red Eye Zombie dragons. there's a trade-off because normal Red Eyes benefits from Champion's Vigilance, which is just a great all-purpose counter, while Red Eye Zombie has Zombie Synergy, so you can use it with other monsters. I only have 2 Champion's Vigilance, and a long time ago I disenchanted my Red Eyes, so I could get like a stone for Yugioh, I think. So I was down to Red Eyes or something. I had 2 or something. And that's why I decided to play Red Eye Zombie. I had 3 of those from buying through Dawn of Destiny or Crimson Kingdom. I forget which one. But I had 3. And I was playing Zombie Gemini all of last season. So I had some familiarity with the archetype of resurrecting things. And in some of the Red Eye Zombie mirror matches, you trade zombies because Red Eye Zombie steals zombies when he destroys them in battle. So there's a lot of interesting play with that card. You need 3 times Red Eye's Spirit for sure. It's the core trap in any Red Eyes deck because it helps bring back Red Eyes, obviously. And there is a specific play you have to make with the trap. When you set it the first turn, I don't bring it back till their opponent is at the end phase because at the start of your next turn, they can use a trap to counter Red Eye's Spirit. And also, if you activate it too early before their battle phase, they can destroy your Red Eye Zombie. So typically, I would spring it at the end. And if they're attacking me, I would spring it just to block the attack. So there's a bit of a timing thing you have to do with Red Eye Spirit. Another thing that I did was sometimes if I had extra spirits but only 1 Red Eye Zombie and I wanted to win the game, I would sacrifice a Red Eye Zombie for another Red Eye Zombie and then I'd use the spirit to bring it back. And then I would activate Beatdown and then I would win the game like that. So that's more of an aggressive play. You have to judge the situation of when to do that.
On the timing of the spirit, by the way, that's one of the major differences between the zombie version and the normal version. Because I ran the normal version because I didn't have all the zombie monsters, and you would typically do the spirit at the start of their turn so that you either had Champion's Vigilance available to counter anything, or so that you could at least pretend that you had Champion's Vigilance to counter anything. So just to quickly interject, that's one difference if you're playing the other version.
Yeah, it's amazing how the decks are so similar. Well, by name they're so similar, and they use the same cards, but then you use this trap card, the core trap, in a completely different way, just because you have Vigilance, I guess. Red Eye's Insight. I actually began the season with none of these because I refused to farm Super Joey. And my final version had 3, so basically I used all of my SR tickets this month to get Red Eye's Insight. When I had 1 or 2, I tried using Tribute of the Doomed because it did help discard a card, and it had a plus effect. But really the main purpose of having 3 is just bolstering your opening hand consistency. I didn't realize how important it was until my last 5 games, or last 10, where I had, a really good hand, and that's how I won the game. Especially my last 5. I say I got lucky. I didn't really have a really bad hand. Like, all spirits and no zombies or something. That would have been really bad. But I had a really good hand. That's what it did. 2 times Gozuki. Typically, you have 3 of these because it's a really good monster. The play is to dump Red Eye Zombie and summon it back with spirits. Or, if you had a Red Eyes in your hand, you would dump a weaker monster like Goblin Zombie, get destroyed, and summon it from your hand. I had Samurai Skull before, but I took it out, so I ended it with 2 Gozukis. The other cards are Flex Spots, Monsters, and Protection Spells. I really built my deck from a lot of random people online, and there was a person who was really rambling on Reddit, trying to give advice. He gave really good advice, but it was a really long run-on sentence. And he mentioned how he has 2 times Goblin Zombie as the core, but I always saw 1 in deck lists that people used, so that's what I was set on. And I do agree that you have to have Goblin Zombie. And some of the other monsters you have depend on your preference, and I actually have 1 of each, which is kind of weird, but some people have 2 of some and none of the other. Goblin Zombie, it serves as the Gozuki tutor. That's its first use. It could get discarded as the first card you discard to get Red Eye Zombie out of the hand. And its last ability is to discard a card from your opponent's deck. But a lot of times people just let this card hit through, and they want to use their protection spells against Red Eye Zombie. So it has a use in that it gets allowed to hit through things sometimes. Red Eye's Wyvern only have one of these. Some people run two. It's only non-zombie card, but it does have use in tight games when you're low on cards, and you can just get... It's a fourth way to cheat out a Red Eye Zombie out of 3 times Red Eye Spirits. And it can get discarded by Insight to get a Red Eye Zombie out. 1 times Heavy Knight of the Flame. Just another zombie to have. I found that having zombies is pretty important in this deck. And it has the Gemini ability to banish monsters, which is good against Red Eyes, and Phoenix. And the last card, Bacon Saver. I actually cut out Sphere Karibo for this card. I saw someone's deck list where they had this instead of Sphere Karibo. I think it might actually be better than Sphere Karibo just for being a zombie. Another target for Gozuki to send to the graveyard. It can protect your monsters. It can save your monsters when they're hitting into a mirror wall or something. So, I think it's better than Sphere Karibo, honestly. And for the spells and traps, 2 times Mirror Wall. I only had 2, so I would probably put 3 in if I had it, but I only have 2. 2 times Super Rush Headlong. I had a different number of enemy controllers and Super Rushes, but eventually I cut out the enemy controllers. They honestly weren't doing too much. And Super Rush has more utility, letting my small monsters hit through a Red Eyes that comes out of nowhere. And also some defensive value. And the last, if there's any twist in my deck, it's anti-magic arrows. It did tip my scales a bit. I had more spells and traps than monsters, but very aggressive card, and it helps seal the deal. Red Eye Zombie is really aggressive deck. It attacks much more often. It just hits stuff even when there are trap cards sometimes, and this fits in what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And some general tips against decks I faced in Legend. Red Eye's Balance was pretty much what I faced all of yesterday. You're going to have more monsters, they're going to have more traps. They typically use Champion's Vigilance on Gozuki, but it's okay, so as long as you have a set Spirit and a Red Eye Zombie in the graveyard. It's important to disguise your Super Rush Headlongs and Mirror Walls with Toggle Off. That's really high level play. It's not really high level, but something that a lot of people don't know about. So disguise, pay attention to the toggles. I have the dialogue on, so I know when they say battle, I turn it back on. Things like that. In the Red Eye Zombie mirror, it depends on who has a better hand. The important card here is Heavy Knight of Flame. Sometimes you would want to special summon it with Gozuki, so you can use the Gemini summon. And also the Red Eye Zombie stealing zombies is pretty important, so make sure you protect your Red Eye Zombies from getting destroyed. Phoenix, you're not going to have a back row, so sometimes they have a Phoenix in the grave, and you want to use your Spirit right away, so you can get your guy out before they destroy the traps. Heavy Knight is also important here to banish Phoenix. Mill, I faced the Mill deck to get back to Legend 3, and I just didn't discard cards into my graveyard. Like Gozuki effect, I did not use that. Because you're helping them mill you. So, Mausoleum, I faced this deck a lot, especially with my Psychic deck, but with Red Eye Zombie, so as long as you have Spirits, it's fine, because your beatdown ability can destroy their monsters, and having multiple Spirits can just help keep bringing back Red Eye Zombie. And finally, I faced a good number of Relinquish decks, and it's important to disguise your Spirits and not use them too early. Let your smaller monsters get taken over by Relinquished, and make sure your Red Eye Zombies don't get taken over. That's pretty much my main thing for Relinquished. I faced a number of other decks like Ice Barriers, Mako decks, random decks, but it's a deck that is so strong that you don't need a ton of skill to play it, but it's just following some of the typical gameplay guidelines of, like, basically predicting spells, disguising your spells, knowing what to discard in the graveyard, playing with Gozuki, stuff like that. So, really strong deck, And I would say early next season, it's still going to be a pretty solid deck when people are trying out new things. So I would say it's still safe to take to PvP.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we see it in Hearthstone and in the other games that we play where at the beginning of every season and at the beginning of every pile of new cards, for some games it's just when sets come out, but for this game it's also in other times. But whenever there's this big shift, there's one group of people who are trying out everything, and then there's a different group of people who are maybe just more interested in winning. And so the more interested in winning group is playing the same stuff as what they were playing last time, but they're kind of farming these people who are playing decks that are unrefined and that might become the meta, but because they're unrefined, they can't really compete as well. So like a really solid deck like Red Eye Zombie is still going to be most likely a pretty good choice pretty early on in this upcoming meta.
And there are, before the new set came out, a lot of people were actually angry on Reddit. There was a bit of complaining about meta decks. I don't know if you saw that, but I guess it depends on what you value. If you want to try a new deck and go through the trials of that, and if that's fun for you, then do that. But if you want to pick up the wins, this is what you want to do, is to try the tried and true decks.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know that I love to brew and I love to try out weird decks and stuff. And so usually what I do is I don't have a ton of time to devote to playing, so I can't like play meme decks for half the season and then okay, time to get serious and decide to just go get King of Games or anything like that. In fact, I expect that most seasons I will not be able to get King of Games, even if I like try the whole season, just because I don't have time to do that every time. But I still like to. What I do is I will play my meme decks against like the standard duelists if I'm just grinding them for whatever reason, and I have a hot second to try that out, or to do my missions to go the stages up, or the time that I get probably most of my meme decking in is on the stage, the floors. What are they called? Ranked floors.
Right. Yeah.
So that you can't de-rank. And I'll just, maybe take a day to play my meme decks. The problem is when the meme decks are too good and I just win and get out of my ranked floor, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll switch back to my regular deck.
Yeah, Legend 1 is the best place just because you're facing real competition to see if it actually works.
Yeah, it's a great spot to try out new decks. The memeier the deck, you might want to be a little lower down. But if you have a deck that's that you think might become meta or is like worth testing, but you're not quite sure if it's refined yet or you're not comfortable with it yet, then yeah, Legend 1 is a great place to play it.
And we are seeing a lot of emerging decks that we do want to talk about, but we're not ready to because you need a larger sample size to know if the deck's for real, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to This Week in Esports.
Right, so since you talked a lot about your deck, I'll cover this part. We covered a couple tournaments that were scheduled to happen in this past week. Last week, so we'll talk about them now a little bit more. Eyes on Heart Limited, our Twitter friend, put on his own event, and Eyes On's tournament ended up having 9 competitors in it, and our other Twitter friend, PKH Town, goes by PK, ended up winning it. So that's really cool, both in terms of having a little bit of grassroots growth in the community and also seeing our involved people doing a good job. So PK used Psychics, Control, Ice Barrier, and a Dark Flare Last Gamble deck. Apparently this tournament did not require you to have the same deck between matches. And PK said that the Psychic deck did not do particularly well, maybe didn't even pull any wins, but the Ice Barrier and Dark Flare ones did. The Darkflare one was really interesting. We're going to throw it into the show notes. And we also have a VOD of the tournament. So you can check all of that out in the show notes. It's pretty sweet. Guns Blazing did a 16-man, and a member of his Discord named Sizito ended up winning the whole thing. So congrats to him. Congrats also to our Twitter friend Andrew Curto, who ended up getting second place. Andrew talked to us a little bit about it, and he explained that they had to use 2 decks through the bracket, and then when they got into the finals, they had to add a third. And he used Psychics, Red Eyes Balance as his first 2, and then he added Tomb Barrel Dragon 3-star Demotion as his third. He said that he started every match with Psychics, and unlike PK, it worked very well for him. He said it didn't drop any games. He ran the No Mortal Can Resist with the 3 Watt Psychics, and that was just to counter the Red Eyes decks. And his own Red Eyes deck was pretty interesting too. He ran the Balance Red Eyes, but instead of doing the... he did the 5 monster, 5 magic, 10 trap setup, but instead of doing counter traps with Valdalgian, he just kind of used strong traps to get over opposing 2400 monsters. So, of course, there's a few of them in the meta, including Red Eyes and Phoenix and at least one of the ninjas. And so he used 2 Inspiration and 1 Metamorph. And that kind of helped him attack over those guys. It also allowed him in that 5th monster slot to use Wyvern. And I kind of like the list because the counterbalance version seems really strong, but it has this potential to brick.
Right. Yeah.
And with my luck, it tends to brick a lot. So I like that this one seems a lot less prone to bricking. So it's a good move on his part, and congrats on pulling second place for that one. We talked about Reddit's tournament last week, which was on the 24th. And we checked the Reddit Discord, and it looks like that kind of never happened. I think only 2 people signed up for it, and then only 1 person actually even checked in come tournament time. So congrats to that person for winning by default. But obviously the tournament was not held. This week's tournament was also pretty small. I think there were only about 4 people in it. But the winner was Shaw, who used a dinosaur build, and it used Boxer and the, what's that other one called? Destroyer-saurus. So there's some interesting new cards there to kind of revive this old archetype. So that's pretty cool. It used Fossil Dig as well, which you don't really see too often. So we've got that one linked in the show notes. It's a bit of an interesting build. And then Psychaos, we'll call it, got second place with a pretty cool Legendary Oceans deck, which is also in the show notes. The Legendary Ocean, as we talked about, can run yugioh, and it turns him into a 2650 4-star monster. So that's kind of probably what the deck was built around. And we talked before about how the Legendary Ocean also turns your 4 stars into 3 stars, so you can do some Hammer Shark shenanigans. But Psychaos decided not to go that route and instead used a couple of reptiles and the Evil Dragon Ananta, which is one of the new cards, to get a little bit of value out of that instead of the Hammer Shark route. So it's an interesting deck. And like I said, it's in the show notes so you can check it out. I guess one last point on that is the Reddit tournaments, one of them didn't go and the other one only had 4 people. We were talking about it a little bit before the show, and they don't have any prize pools, so it could be that there's just enough support for other tournaments that people are going to those ones instead. But I think this is kind of just a bit of unfortunate timing and a bit of a slump because there was so much going on in-game that people wanted to just play that, and they didn't feel comfortable with their collections because they only got a little bit of the new stuff. We got a whole new set and then a whole new world, so there's a lot of flux right now, and so maybe people didn't feel like it'd be worth their time to compete in the tournament when they didn't know exactly what to expect. And of course there's these other tournaments going on like Guns and Izons, so there's probably a bunch that we also didn't catch and didn't report on. So, I don't expect the Reddit tournaments to be dead. I expect them to make a comeback, and I expect them to, as free tournaments with limited or no prize support, to most likely be a little bit more casual and to kind of be a little bit based on the ebbs and flows of the game and of the community's scene at large.
Yeah, while we're happy to see other things sprout up, I guess it just depends on what you want to do. I guess people who participated in the tournament, they might have been doing it for the first time, or they're just really loyal to that tournament format, so that they did it anyways. And we do expect a bigger one once the meta kind of settles down a little. Maybe in the next week or two, there might be a better showing in Reddit tournament.
Yeah. All
right. So now we're going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I mean, Duel Links GX, and GX stands for Generation Next. There's some basic things to point out in case people need to be reminded. There are some things that are confusing, but some things that are kind of basic. The original Duel World is now called DM. This is important because certain missions can be double dipped. You can do them in both worlds, but certain ones say DM and certain ones say GX. So pay attention to that. I think the unlock characters can happen in both worlds. So you can kind of unlock the new characters in the DM world. You start out in stage 1 in GX, but the standard duelists retain the same difficulty level. Yours are the 30-something, right? 33?
Actually, I didn't say this in the intro, but in one of my bouts of doing more grinding and lots of auto duels and stuff, I did end up doing that stage flip. Oh. So my guys have leveled up as well.
Okay, cool. But they stay at the same level as your standard duel decks in the Duel Monsters world. So, for example, I started out on stage 1 in GX, but my standard duelists were level 45. And from what we could tell, GX stage up missions only go up to level 30 for now. Some people are done, so don't be rushed to finish up all the staging. Do what's important for you in the meantime. The standard duelist counter, card collection, gems, gold, card trader, PvP rank, vagabond sightings, secret gem locations, and duel gate are shared between the two worlds. Are you sure the secret gem locations are shared?
Well,
they're in the same place. Yeah.
Right, they're in the same place is what I meant. Okay, yeah. I don't know if the recharge, timers are the same, but I think they are. I haven't think so. Yet. I haven't had any. I mean, maybe not, but I haven't had any situations in which I do it in one world and then do it in the other world and still have that spot available.
I think yesterday I checked all my GX ones. You know what? You might be right, because I went back to DM and I got 3 out of 4. But I felt like I checked the GX ones an hour earlier.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't hurt to try. And what I actually intended to convey was that they're in the same spots, so you can find them easily. Not sure at this point if you can have them in one world and not the other.
And make sure you check out for Legendary Duelists, because sometimes there's a stray Legendary Duelist hang out in DM World and you completely ignore them for days.
Yeah.
You start out as Jaden as the first playable Legendary Duelist, but the others are unlocked. You unlock Chaz when you get to stage 5, Alexis stage 10, Bastion you need 50 games with 1 card or less in your deck, and Aster you need to summon 200 attribute dark monsters. And after you unlock them, they show up at the gate, but you have to do additional missions to play the character. So it's like a two-step process.
Yeah.
We were talking about how we both don't have Bastion. Because this is going to take forever. You can't auto-duel this. You're going to have to do this. It's going to take some kind of farming event, or you're playing level 10 people or something.
Yeah, I saw some people on Reddit talking about how they did it by just going to level 10, Legendary Duelist at the gate, which, by the way, you can call from the gate either world, regardless of which one you're in. But that just seems wasteful to me. At least at this point, we have seen some emerging archetypes and stuff that people are really excited to talk about and that seem really strong, but I've not yet seen any with Bastion, so I'm not like in a huge hurry to get to him, and so I think I'm just gonna do it as I try to farm other stuff. I feel like I'm gonna pick up Aster eventually, just kind of naturally by playing that way.
Right. And it's just all about opportunity cost. I kind of see it as a waste of time because there's so much other stuff to do instead of fighting level 10 people. And we're going to get it eventually. Aster, I read about it early on, so I used Jaden with a dark deck, and I just auto-dueled and I got him. Like, I got Aster before Chaz. So
actually, that's funny. I got him after Chaz, but before Alexis, because of the same reason you probably told me. So I just did an auto duel with Dark Monsters.
Yep. This one's big. Legendary duelists at level 10 and 20 can now drop SRs and Rs only found in level 30 and 40. I assume it's a really rare chance, but a chance is a chance. You're gonna get the card you can't get on level 10 sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but what I have found to happen more often is I've been getting the SR like jewels a lot.
Oh, right, yes.
From the level 10 and 20 guys. So I haven't yet pulled any crazy stuff with the actual cards, but I've definitely seen some of this added value.
That's great. And there are new SD decks. You haven't been in your stage long enough to know if there are new ones, right? Or do you know?
I mean, I can tell that there were new ones. I did start out at my 33, so I was there for like a day before I switched it over.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I definitely noticed that there were new ones at least that stage.
Yeah, the ones in level 45. Yeah, the ones in 45 are easier than new ones.
Mm.
There's one that's like Magic Gone Haywire, and they run Tower of Babel, and they always trip it themselves. They don't count counters or something, so they take 3,000 damage just for no reason.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And this is a big one. The Domino High School student standard duelists don't show up in the GX world. So you could say goodbye to Jess and Andrew and all of them, and they're replaced by new people. And now it's a combination of old standard duelists and new ones. So it was kind of confusing the first time I saw it, but I kind of got that's what happened.
Yeah. One thing was funny. There was this interaction when you unlock
Alexis.
When you unlock Alexis, where Jay's just being a total dick to the I forget the new standard duel. Yeah, to Alyssa. Jay's like, I win. They actually accepted you from the Duel Academy. I guess they'll accept anyone.
Do you know what's funny? Because Jay was kind of like a goofy character until they gave him this persona.
Yeah, Jay's savage.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh yeah. I would have understood it if like Christine or some of those people who were kind of mean before said that. Yeah, but yeah, Jay's just no chill. That's all right. And we may have mentioned this, but we got a lot of gems that first day. You were pretty much overwhelmed, right? I think I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. I mean, I got a ton of stuff. I ended up buying through whatever the Horus set is called.
Right.
Once through only, but I bought through that. I had been saving up a little bit for it, but I got like probably a couple thousand from all the stuff. I know we got like 1,000 and something up front, and then there's of course all these new missions and new characters, so you get a lot from there now. And even after I have finished buying through the Horus set, just the one time, but I finished buying it through almost completely because, DeckTech luck. I already have 1,500, almost 1,600 gems again, just from, doing stuff. And so that's cool.
Yeah, we also got extra gems for having played the game 250 days or so that we have. So we got hundreds of gems there. Yeah. Redeemable UR and SR tickets. There's a lot of choices now, from card trader cards, LD farm cards, event cards. Some of the cards that you couldn't get before, you couldn't farm them, you can get them. I could get my Frost and Flame Dragon.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Toon Mermaid. Doesn't really see much play now, though, but that's always been something that was kind of lacking in my collection, so I don't know.
Bingo. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to quickly say it also had a cool UI update. I really liked the way that they did, where it had like some suggested ones at the top.
All right.
The suggestions were a little weird because it was suggesting spin back, but still, it was cool. There was some good stuff there, so I like that they improved the UI as well as gave us all this new and cool stuff.
There's a guy on Reddit who's talking about it, and he had like 13 enemy controllers. You saw that?
I didn't. I mean, I have 4 now, so now that we all have 4 enemy controllers.
Yeah. No, this guy had 13, and people were saying like how did you get 13? And why you're leaving SR gems on the table? But anyways, there was also a bingo event. I think they ran out of time, so Mokuba is unlocked by playing bingo, and you actually get a lot of gems from this too, because you get like, if you match a bingo row and column, you get like 3 rewards just for doing that. So a lot of stuff from bingo. And yeah, as you mentioned, just leveling up characters, new stages, and achievements, you're getting gems from all that. So yeah, I'm not done with the first set, just because I'm holding on to 2,000 gems for no reason, but I've got both of my Horuses, and once I get my Beast King of the Swamps, I'm going to reset the box. Alright, new characters. I don't know how much we allude to this, but we only watched the show from the first series. I watched a little more than you, because you stopped earlier than me, but we don't really know these new characters. So forgive us for not knowing the lore or not getting on certain jokes, but we can talk about the characters, skills, and card rewards, or maybe just a little bit about the characters, what we know, what we get from them from the first impressions of these characters.
Yeah, we'll call it the new player experience, and we'll go with that.
Yeah. All right, Jaden. He uses fusions, and the elemental heroes kind of fuse together. So there's 3 main elemental heroes: Avian, Bubbleman, and Burstinatrix, and they kind of fuse in sets. So Avian can fuse with Burstinatrix and Bubbleman, and they make 2 different fusions, and they kind of combine things. So you could kind of use the same monsters. That's more versatile than a separate fusion material, I guess. So let's talk about some of the cards. I have to refresh my dueling book because I don't know what the cards do. Let's see. What do you think about Jaden, first of all? For me, he seems like someone from like California. I don't know. That's my stereotyping of California people. Like, he's just super chill, right?
I guess. I haven't heard his voice, so I don't know if he's got the right, inflection and accent for it or anything like that. But I do think it's funny that the heroes are all humanoids, right? And
yeah, they're modeled after like superheroes in Marvel or DC.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's funny that we're fusion monstering them, because when they're humanoids, your natural inclination is to think that they're like sentient and like smart. And I mean, all the monsters and duel monsters are like sentient, but it's easier to kind of have this illusion that it's just like a beast when it looks like just a monster thing. But when it's like a person and you're combining it with another person, you're like, who's in charge over there? What's going on?
If it's like a man and a woman too, it's like You got to figure out who comes out as the fusion, who's the dominant sex.
Right, and then the other one's like in their mind, like, "Hey, what's going on? Let's
Right.
check out these new bits."
Exactly. All right. Elemental Hero Bubble Man 800 1200. This is the water fusion. And if this is the only card in your hand, you can special summon it from your hand. And when it's summoned, you can draw 2 cards. You must control no other cards and no cards in your hand to activate and resolve this effect. So it's, besides being a fusion material piece, it helps you catch up. Drawing 2 cards is big.
Yeah.
Wild Heart. This is the Earth portion, so you can actually... I was wrong when I said there was only 3. There's like an Earth one too, I guess. This card is unaffected by trap effects. It's 1500, 1600. It's not going to be used in other decks that don't fuse them, because there's another card called Tengabito Shen that doesn't get affected by traps and no one plays them at all. So, just something to be wary of when you're playing against these decks. This guy's not going to get affected by traps.
Yeah.
Card Ejector. Once per turn, you can target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and you can banish that target. The problem with this card is it only has 400 attack and defense, and you have to keep it up on the board. But, how effective is Banish? It sounds really good in today's meta, but it doesn't seem worth keeping this monster around. It's not going to survive.
Yeah, probably not.
Yep. And a fusion monster, Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. And you fuse Avian and Burstinatrix. Must be fusion summoned. When this card destroys a monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. It only has 2100 attack, but if you can get it out in the first turn, it might be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't like fusions that are weak like that, because you're just setting yourself up to invest a lot into something that will end up dying.
Right. And there are other fusions. I guess it's figuring out which combination you want to use in your deck and to have multiple ones so you could fuse more stuff. I think that's how they go.
Yeah.
Alright, let's talk about Aster. He uses the Destiny Hero cards, and they involve more graveyard interactions and resurrection effects. I think they're better than the Elemental Heroes, right? Just by looking at them.
I like the theme more, I can tell you that. I haven't taken a long look at all these. There's so many new cards that I haven't been able to sit down and really look at them all. Like I said, I was kind of busy at work this week, but I like reanimation type stuff.
And just for something like us who we don't really know these cards, the fact that a lot of these cards have the same name, kind of, it's hard to tell one from the other. That's just me, yeah. Destiny Hero Dasher. Once per turn, you can tribute one other monster. This card gains 1,000 attack until the end phase. If this card attacks, change it to defense position at the end of the battle phase. One time only, if you draw a monster card during your draw phase while this card is in your graveyard, you can reveal it and special summon it. So this card is 2,100 attack, and it becomes 3,100. It has synergy with a few cards like Deep Diver, so you could kind of set the card you want on the top of your deck, and then you could special summon him. Or you could use Black Terra to continually use fuel to get 1,000 attack, I guess. And it could be resurrected by Fearmonger. This card reminds me of Dash Warrior.
It looks like Dash Warrior. I guess that's what dashing looks like in Japan.
Yeah. Destiny Hero Double Dude. It's 6 stars, but 1,000 at 1,000. This card can attack twice during your battle phase. If this card was destroyed, since your last standby phase, you can special summon 2 Double Dude tokens. I see this card being a farming use. I mean, it's a tribute, but it has more attack than Piranha Army. It's the same effect. Maybe.
Yeah. I think the non-tribute part might be more important, though, because you can just play the Piranha as on your last turn.
Last turn, yeah.
I think there's some interesting value there with the tokens, where he kind of replaces himself in terms of tempo. if you want to do like subsequent tributes. But I would guess that this is generally not going to see much play.
You know, when I wrote this up, I didn't realize he was 6 stars. I've always 4.
Yeah, if he were 4 stars, then it'd be much...
Now he seems a lot worse.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Hamstrat, the effect of just leaving some tokens out on the board. Well, Hamstrat stays on the board, so it's like 3 things. But, yeah. This one might actually see play. Destiny Hero Diamond Dude. 4 stars, 1400, 1600. Once per turn, you can excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a normal spell card, send it to the graveyard. Otherwise, put it on your bottom of your deck. During the main phase of your next turn, you can activate that effect of the spell card in your graveyard, even if you control no face-up cards. So, what this means is you can activate spell cards for free. Like certain ones that have conditions, like Dark Magic Attack, Dark Burning Attack, Burst Stream of Destruction, Ojama Delta Hurricane, Wing Beat of a Giant Dragon. You can activate any of these cards for free.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
so this card's exciting, yeah.
Even if you don't get to cheat out that requirement, you still get, it's essentially like a card draw with a little bit of condition, but, that's always good. So that's really cool.
Yep. It seems kind of memey that you would put, like, Dark Magic Attack in your deck, but it's really big catch-up ability. You could just clear your opponent's board right away. So... yeah, I expect this card to see some play. I don't know how it's going to be used, but it'll fit in. Destiny Draw, not the skill. Discard 1 Destiny Hero card, draw 2 cards. So these cards kind of work on resurrection effects, and you're drawing 2 cards. So it seems pretty good. I think this is level 40 reward, so it's going to take a while to get this card.
Yeah, it's definitely a good card.
Yep. Chaz. What do you think about Chaz?
Is Chaz the one with the slimy guys?
Yeah.
With the slimy guys. Yeah, the Ojamas. I don't know. He seems a little bit weird. Like he's trying to be like a badass or something, but really he's just kind of goofy. I don't know if it works better in the show when you see more of him, but in this game, it's a little bit of a weird situation.
Yeah. He has Armed Dragons, Ojamas. Armed Dragon level 5 has that 2400 attack, 1700 defense. You can send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard to target 1 face-up monster you controls with attack less than or equal to that sent monster, and you can destroy it. During the end phase, when this card destroys a monster by battle, you can summon a level 7. So the effect is a bit like the XZ Dragon, where you could discard a card and destroy a monster. And it has 2400 attacks, so it seems pretty good. With Dragon Synergy, it hits over 2400.
Yeah, I think it's a solid card. It's hard to see exactly what's going to pull out ahead with all these new cards, but this seems like a contender. We also, of course, have some various miscellaneous like level monster support cards. So from the last 2 sets, so there's some potential there for sure. It's got a solid effect and good stats.
It could be an activator for Dark Flare. Even though it's a wind, you could help discard stuff. Well, maybe it's too much to ask for. Armed Dragon level 7, 2800 attack. The difference is you could send a monster to the grave, and then you could destroy all their monsters with attack less than or equal to that card. It's more win more, but if you're running 5, you're probably running 7 anyways, just like 1 copy of 7, just because it could come out.
Right. Yeah, I think we could see some interesting stuff with, like, maybe it's a reanimation trigger, like you can discard your red eyes or something like that, but
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Chthonian Polymer, it's a trap card. You can only activate this card when your opponent fusion summons a monster. Tribute 1 monster on your side of the field to take control of that fusion. So, this is some kind of tech if fusions become too good.
Yep.
That's all I have to say. Alright, Alexis. What was your first impression of Alexis? What did you say she looked like?
I thought she looked like because of her hair, by the way,
Right,
I thought
exactly.
that she looked like a female version of Kaiba. If you look at
Right.
it,
Yeah.
it's like the same haircut, but like the mullet part's a little longer.
Right, right. So she uses the Cyber Angels, which might be the first big splash in this new meta. Like, the new developing meta, people are winning impressive games with Cyber Angels, and they're ritual monsters. And you could all
Right.
use the same ritual spell. A trap card. A rival appears. Select one face-up monster your opponent controls. Special summon one monster from your hand that is the same level. This seems like it's going to be tricky to pull out, but I think in this game you're using the same levels, right? Like everyone has like a level 4 card or something.
Yeah, that's true for the most part.
But I don't like it might just be a niche card. Like you're only getting one copy, so we don't know how much it's going to be used. Spell Shield Type 8. Activate an effect, counter trap. Whenever a spell targets a monster, so it's kind of like Ryoku Field. Negate a spell card that targets a monster. Or you can negate a spell by sending a spell from your hand to the graveyard. So it's kind of like an extra Ultimate Providence, right? Kind of.
Yeah, it seems pretty solid in terms of protecting your monsters and stuff.
Yep. Cyberblader, really interesting card that I don't have here. Cyberblader. Alright, so it's a fusion monster, 2100, 800. So it has different abilities depending on how many monsters your opponent has. So when they have 1, this card cannot be destroyed on battle. If they have 2, you double this card's attack, so it becomes 4200. When they have 3, you can negate the effects of your opponent's spell, trap, or effect cards. So this card, you could kind of use cards to abuse putting weak stuff on their side of the board to manipulate how many monsters they have. This card's really hard to tell what's going to happen with this card.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like you said, a very build-around card where you would need it to have ways to force them to have like the right amount of monsters or any monsters or stuff, and a little bit of protection to make sure that it sticks around, and so you're not devoting so much into something that dies immediately. But it's a cool effect. I think it would probably see a ton of play if it weren't for the fact that we were also getting the ritual guys,
Right.
which are kind of getting all the attention right now.
I think the main big monster in the ritual decks is Cyber Angel Dakini. It's 8-star tribute, 8-star ritual, 2700, 2400. So its ability is you can make your opponent send one monster they control to the graveyard. That's after you ritual summon. So you force them to destroy one of their own monsters. If a ritual monster you control attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing. So all your ritual monsters. Once per turn, during your end phase, you can target one ritual monster or one machine angel ritual and add it to your hand. This card just does a million things.
Right, and I think the come into play and the end of turn are much more relevant than the piercing.
Right.
But it's just all around good, and the ability, you get an instant value, and then you get to recoup some of your lost value at the end of each turn. So it doesn't have the same downside that most rituals have, where you have to devote a lot into it, and then you're kind of setting yourself up to get a lot of card disadvantage. For this one, because of those reasons, you are kind of staying ahead on the card advantage, or at the very least, breaking even. And you get the tempo play of being able to do it as a ritual, so you can, maybe play more than one thing at a time and stuff like that.
And from the video we saw this morning, I think they used like 2 or 3 rituals in the same turn, right? They used Benton and Ida-10, and then they summoned this one afterwards, because you get a ritual card back from those summons.
Right, so the deck has a lot of recycling and searching and those types of effects that are very powerful traditionally in card games. So I haven't I didn't actually sit down and watch the whole video. I kind of just got the gist of it because I prefer to try to figure those things out on my own. So I saw this hot new video that we were going to talk about, and I just took a quick peek. But yeah, it seems like it's a really powerful possible upcoming archetype.
Yep. And we have the video there, so you can check it out. And Decade kind of predicts it to be good, so
yeah, he calls it tier 0, and I don't know how much of that is just puffery to try to make the video get lots of clicks, which it certainly will and has, but obviously tier 0 meaning that it's better than tier 1. That's what people were saying about the Tomb Barrel Dragon deck that ended up kind of breaking out in this most recent meta, so maybe this is the next breakout.
We have to make a tier -2. That's going to beat everyone.
It's the spin-off podcast.
Yep. Swing of Memories, magic card. Target one normal monster in your graveyard. You can special summon it, but destroy it during the end phase of this turn. I think you could do a combo with Gemini, in that you could turn it into a Gemini monster, and then it stays.
Yeah. Maybe. Sorry. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Or you could just use it for a tribute or something, and use the monster that's not going to stay around any longer, and use it for something like Order to Charge or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bastion. His cards have a chemistry theme, kind of, bonding of elements. Polychemical critter Dioxogre. It's a Fiend Gemini with 2800, 200. It has a Gemini effect. It has 2 abilities. The normal summon of this Gemini monster cannot be negated. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Gemini from your graveyard, target 1 monster your opponent controls, and destroy it. Target 1 card your opponent controls and destroys it. So, you're going to need some kind of build around for this card. He costs 2 cards to summon, so it's probably the Gemini monsters that you use to tribute to make him to destroy stuff. But, any card that destroys something from using graveyard fuel is pretty good. But the defense is kind of low, and he's kind of slow.
Yeah. Well,
but you could get him out with Doom Shaman and Supervise as well.
Doom Shaman and Supervise.
Yeah. Well, he has to be in the graveyard. He has to be in the graveyard for Supervise, and Doom Shaman's Gemini ability is to summon a Fiend. So
right.
Maybe.
DNA
Transplant. This is a trap card that turns all face-up monsters into 1 attribute.
Yes. We have, this is our second copy of it in the game, right?
We have DNA Surgery, right?
Oh, yes, yeah. Okay.
So this kind of fits in more into his special ability, which gets you a field out. And you could kind of fit it into whatever field you want, but your opponent's monsters are going to get the same benefit of the field.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting.
Yeah. But I saw some kind of synergy with the element monsters. So, you could turn them all into fire types, and then Elemental Source becomes really good or something. I don't know.
yeah, I guess that's true. But then you kind of only get 1 value, whereas sometimes you could kind of, with the elementals, you could have them buff each other and stuff, right? So
right. Yeah.
I don't know if that will end up seeing play, but it's an interesting card, and I'm still going to be using my Order of the Tribe or whatever, and Regulation of the Tribe and combo it, so you can never attack me.
DD Scout Plane. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card is currently banished and was banished this turn, you can special summon in face-up attack position. So you can kind of reuse this for banish fuel like Skull Lair, I think. Mm-hmm. Keep using it. Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool effect. What are the stats on that thing?
800, 1200.
Ah, I see. So yeah, you'd have to throw it into defense mode and then just kind of use it as a miscellaneous stall card. But, free value is free value. So.
It's good if you get multiple copies of this too. I think it's a level up reward. I'm not sure. But if you get multiple ones of these, Not bad.
Yeah.
Water Dragon, you have to special summon it with Bonding H2O. The attack of fire monsters and pyro monsters on the field becomes 0. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 2 Hydro Geddon and 1 Oxy Geddon in your graveyard. So that's what you use to make him. And he turns everything to 0. So Lava Golem, Hazy Flame, Nethys, Canine Taurus, I added him for some reason, and Sergeant Electro all become 0. You
And
can
Horus.
combo him with Horus. Oh, he's fire?
He is fire, yeah.
Okay. So maybe this... I mean, the ability is kind of... Bonding H2O. What does this do? You know what? I can't even look up the word. Oxygeddon. Hold up. Bonding... Okay, Bonding H2O. Oh, you could summon him from your hand. Your materials don't have to be on the board. So it's like polymerization with 3 monsters. Yeah. So, I guess it depends how good fire cards are, but these are some cards that are played a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at least moderately so. I know that we are already getting some value against... it tends to be against me because I haven't played much Mako, but Mako gets some just like inherent value from reducing a lot of my guys. And this is kind of the same where you get some splash value. Plus his stats are decent, decent effect.
2800, yeah.
Yeah. Plus the ability to maybe summon him from your hand. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see it. And Mokuba, he's obtainable for the first time as playable and from Bingo. He doesn't show up at the gate yet, though, from what I could tell. You could just play as him. Some of the interesting cards he gives are Ancient Rules, a magic card that gives the ability to special summon 1 level 5 or higher normal monster from your hand. Pretty good.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot of potential for abuse here. So I think that that's going to be one of those cards to watch as a possible card to maybe be part of one of the major archetypes, like Red Eyes or like the Kaiba Man decks or something. Right. Or one thing that I was thinking was 3-star Demotion Dark Magician decks can maybe use this instead or in addition to their other stuff. So I think we'll see, if it, like everything else, we'll see if it ends up making as big of a splash as it could, but I do think there's definitely some potential there.
Yeah, so start leveling up Mokuba, because you get 2 of these from level up rewards.
Yeah, I think Alexis and Mokuba are the 2 that most people are going to be focusing on first.
Lady of D. Your opponent cannot target face-up dragon monsters you control for attacks. If this card is on the field, would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can send 1 dragon monster from your hand to the graveyard instead. I think this could be pretty good, because it protects... It's a little slow, honestly. It's 1500, and your dragons have to be on the board, but it's really good protection just to have them not get attacked, and she herself can be saved.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm a little bit less impressed by it. But, it's nice to protect your dudes, so.
Yep. Guardian of Felgrand. 500 attack warrior. If this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can equip 1 level 7 or 8 dragon monster from your hand or graveyard to this card. This card gains attack and defense equal to half of that monster. You can tribute 1 monster and this card and target 1 level 7 or level 8 dragon from your graveyard and special summon it. This card's really unique. I don't know if it's useful, but it has some interesting abilities.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and some of it's fun.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
You can kind of just send your guys to the graveyard. I think that's what his use is sending big dragons and bringing 1 back or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's see.
I mean, you get Red Eyes. Red Eyes is 1200. Blue Eyes is 1500.
Right. So I think it's, that's good enough, maybe.
Yeah.
I think the question is not whether it could see play, but whether it could fit in the deck. So I think that this would be a good enough card in some of these decks if there weren't better cards.
Right.
It's not that it's not good enough to compete with the other cards in the meta. It's that it's maybe not good enough to compete with the other cards in this deck. Because you want to keep your deck around 20, unless there's a specific reason why you're looking for a 30-card deck.
And he himself is not a dragon, so that kind of puts that some of that. It makes him worse, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of the notable skills so far. Blessing of the Cyber Angel, Alexis level 4 rank up. It's the first skill in Duel Links where you can get a random card outside of your deck. So we see it in other games like Hearthstone, but this is the first time you can get a random card in Duel Links.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually true, dude. We've got the Harpies one, right?
Which one?
Well, there's the one where you can get the powerful cards, like what are they called? The Creator skill?
The Creator.
Right.
Let me see. Is it the Creator or is it some other card?
Let me see. Oh, no. Not, you don't get the Creator, the card. Wait, the card you get is the Breaker, the Magical Knight, or whatever he's called. Is one of the cards.
Breaker the Magical Warrior? No. Heartbreaker? No. No, I don't know of a card that you can get a card outside of your deck. I don't think there is one.
Oh. Here, I'll look it up. You keep going.
It just seems like it's new. All right. Master of Rites 2 is Alexis level 20. It's important because it gives you the spell Fairy Cage. And Fairy Cage... Damn, it's not even called Fairy Cage. It's a card that protects your your ritual monsters from getting destroyed. So it's a continuous spell, and it serves as the protection instead of using trap cards to protect your monsters.
Okay, and by the way, I found it. It was a Pegasus skill called Creator. And
Pegasus.
The skill says, it adds a random, quote, powerful card to your hand instead of your draw once you've taken a certain amount of damage. The, quote, powerful cards are Breaker the Magical Warrior, Harpy's Feather Duster, and then some less powerful ones, Defender the Magical Knight, Dunamis Dark Witch, and Magical Arm Shield. So that's what I was talking about. But
yes, yeah, this is the first time I've heard of this skill.
it doesn't see much play because you have to have your life below 2,000, and you only kind of want 2 out of the 5. So I don't know.
All right. So I guess I'm going to delete this thing from the notes because I did not know it existed.
Second time, maybe. I don't know if there's another one that I don't remember. But it is a cool effect that lets you... It works with her, that archetype that we were just talking about, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Kaiba Bling. This is a Mokuba drop. It seems like a really budget Destiny draw. You basically, if you take 1,800, you can get a random prismatic or glossy card from your deck. So I kind of got rid of all my cards. Like I melted them at the trader. I batch converted them. Mm-hmm. And there are some cards where I only have glossy ones.
Right. I'm in the same boat, which means that this, that kind of sucks for us. But
yeah.
So the idea being with this one, like you said, is that you can make it so that only one card in your deck is glossy or prismatic or something like that. And so that this becomes a tutor effect or a limited tutor effect if you have like a couple cards that you want to maybe be able to pull from. So the difference between this and Destiny Draw is that you only need to take 18 instead of 2,000. So there's... I don't think it's worth it for that 200 points difference unless something happens that can more easily give you 18. But we have some decent ways to take 2,000 pretty easily. So I think Destiny Draw's almost always going to be better, but there's definitely some room for this interesting skill, and now it makes us kind of want to craft our collections a little differently.
Yeah, you have to change your settings about how many you want to batch convert.
Yeah.
But it might be too late for certain cards already, because you're not going to get them again.
Right.
Yep. Rip. Land of the Ojamas, Chaz level 4. You start off with Ojama Country, and this flips all of your attack and defense points as long as they have one monster on the field. So all of your 1800, all of your 4-star guys are going to be underwhelming, and certain big monsters like Silent Magician are going to have less attack.
Well, doesn't Silent Magician not get affected by this?
Oh, yeah. What's another monster?
Another...
Polychemical Critter Dioxy Ogre. It's got 200.
There you go.
This is really tricky. Like, I don't know if this is... It's hard to say this is not going to be used at all. I feel like it will show up.
Well, I am the third-rate duelist this week because I actually lost to, I'm pretty sure it was level 10 Chaz, because I was not ready for this card at all. I didn't look into what he had or anything. And the deck that I was running was my Dark Monsters deck to grind him out. So it was I had Twin Barrel Dragons and stuff who have 200 defense, and I totally got wrecked by level 10 Chaz.
Yeah, I played a Dark Blade deck so I could get the fusions out as well. And Dark Blade has 1,500 defense, so it's just good enough.
Yeah, there you go. Much better.
And another Ojama skill is Ojama Overflow. This is a drop skill. You have to have 500 life points or less, but you basically summon 3, 0, 1,000 guys on his side of the board. Yeah. So maybe it could be useful for farming, but because you do want to have low life points when you're farming stuff, and it just blocks out their board. So.
And can you summon them in attack or defense? Because it could just give you the win, right? If you put a couple, if they have a big guy who's blocking you, so you can't attack, and then you could just throw a couple 0 attack dudes into attack mode, so you can attack in essentially directly.
Doesn't say.
Yeah. Also unclear. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's cool.
Yep. All right, we're going to talk about some of the new cards from the structure decks. There's 2 new structure decks from Joey and Jaden. The Legendary Warrior deck focuses on warrior cards, equip spells, and having multiple attacks each turn. So these cards are called X-Saber cards. DD Warrior. This is a really famous card. After damage calculation, when this card battles a monster, banish it and banish this card. So it's strictly better than Yomi Ship, right?
Yes, I think so. Does it have better? Yeah, it does have better stats.
As in lower stats, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely better. I think so. Banish is usually better. Every once in a while, there's some decks that prefer not to banish, and it's light instead of water. So I don't know about strictly better, but almost always going to be better.
And they only give you 1 copy, so if you want to buy more than one, you'll have to spend money on the pack.
Gotcha.
Marmiting Captain, 1,200 attack. When this card is normal summoned, you can shuffle 1 card from your hand to the deck, draw a card, and if it's a monster, you can special summon it.
Yeah, I think this one was more for me. It's just
still card draw, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun card that sometimes can lead to some crazy plays. So I'm looking forward to, I'm not actually sure if I'm going to play with it because I'm not sure if I'm going to buy this instead of packs, but I do think that a lot of people are going to buy this through multiple times for DD Warriors, so you might as well play around with Marmiting Captain while you have it.
Yep. And a trap card called Staunch Defender. You can activate this card when your opponent declares an attack. Select 1 face-up monster in your field. During this turn, your opponent must attack that monster of all of their monsters. So this could be a really big swing if you have something that they don't want to attack, but it is situational. Um,
Yeah, so we actually already have this card in the card pool, but it's a really old one. It's from Ultimate Rising, and it has seen a little bit of play in the Taya Cyberstein decks because you get the really big, your Ultimate Dragon or
yeah.
whatever, and then you also have Cyberstein out, and so they're like, oh well, I'll just attack Cyberstein and kill you, and you're like, hold on, you will not. And so uh, it doesn't see a ton of play, but what I do like is that from the structure deck, so we have this card that is an Ultimate Rising card, and we have DD Warrior, which we just talked about is like a better version of Yomi Ship, most likely.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an easy 500 to catch up a little bit on, at least on these two specific cards that maybe you don't want to go back and buy old packs for.
Yep. And the other deck is Hero Rising. It based on fire-based elemental hero cards and tutors and fusion support. Elemental Hero Blazeman. If this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except for fusion monsters. Also send one elemental hero monster from your deck to the graveyard. This card gains attribute, attack, and defense equal to the monster sent to the graveyard until the end of the turn. You can only use the effect of Elemental Hero Blazeman once per turn. So it tutors polymerization and it dumps cards into the graveyard. So it does a lot.
Yeah.
Elemental Hero Heat. A 1600 monster, but it gains 200 for each elemental hero you control, so it starts off as 1800 itself, and it could be more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a lot of attack for cards that typically don't have a ton of attack in elemental heroes.
Yeah. Seems solid.
Yep, seems good. Rottweiler. When this card's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, target one elemental hero and one polymerization in your graveyard and send them to your hand. This just gives you 2 cards in your graveyard. So, if you're running those elemental fusion decks, this seems like a card you'll use.
Yeah, it's good recycling value, and you kind of need it to keep your engine going in your deck, so it makes sense.
Yep. A hero emerges when an opponent. This is a trap card. When an opponent monster declares an attack, your opponent can choose one random card from your hand. If it's a monster, you can special summon it. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. So it's support for big monsters, and you can cheat out something big, right? But it's RNG though.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of RNG. You would only activate it when you've kind of curated your hand so that there's good stuff that you want there. But I think the question is whether it's outclassed by ancient rules, which we're also getting at this time. It allows you to get non-normal monsters, whereas Ancient Rules is limited to normal. But Ancient Rules is like a magic, and there's no RNG, so you can just play it on your turn and attack, and don't have to worry about all kind of the stars aligning. So, looking forward to seeing if maybe some big guys can get some sort of cheating out deck from these various cards.
Yep. And those are all the new cards for now that we're going to talk about. But we're probably going to see more in the future in future decks, so we'll bring those up as they show up in the meta. The last thing to bring up now is that there's a 1.5 experience campaign till the 4th, so we're more motivated to play and level up our characters.
Yeah, we didn't really need help, but it's nice that they gave it to us anyway, because now our guys are leveling very quickly.
Yep. And you'll have everyone at 40 in 2 weeks.
That's right. It's not right, but it's close.
Look to the future. Duel-a-Thon is back in early October. The crowd favorite. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe we'll get GX rewards this time. Oh, it's coming up this week, yeah. Bonz is coming up mid-October. We don't know what we're going to get, but we're probably getting zombies. Pretty sure we're getting zombies. Yeah. And maybe Call of the Haunted, too. So,
yeah,
we're expecting that. I wonder if he has interactions with Keith. That would be pretty cool if he does.
Yeah, he should.
And this could be a farming event, so you could get Bastion during this time. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Duelist Chronicles Round 2 is back mid-October. So they took our suggestions from last time and they brought it back. I think it's the same event with Duelist Island. So you could get Yugimoto again and get the new rewards. There are new rewards. They confirmed it. So
Right. Yeah. I think it's probably going to be the same event. What one thing was interesting was I was wondering if these types of events would be like world specific, and then I thought, well, if they're doing two events at the same time, then maybe they would do one in each world. But the problem is that Bonz would be part of the Duel Monsters world, so that either doesn't apply here, or we're all wrong that it's Bonz and there's some other person that it could possibly be from the GX world. But I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, new unlockable GX LD in late October. It's my turn to teach you a thing or two about dueling. Reddit thinks it's Dr. Crowler. There's actually something really funny. He has a PhD in dueling. That's totally what you have gotten, right?
Yeah, man. That's what was it? That's like Dr. Horrible. PhD in horribleness.
We don't really know much about this guy, but he seems kind of like their version of Pegasus, from what I could tell. He's kind of like really like proper. He kind of looks like a clown, but I don't know much about him.
He's creepy.
He uses the ancient gear cards, I believe. Are you familiar with those cards?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so they're like machines, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I mean, it kind of makes sense since he's a professor at their school, is what I saw, or like the dean of it or something. So it kind of makes sense that he would be the one who's teaching people a thing or two about dueling. So.
I mean, when you have a PhD, how can you not?
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a mill. It's because if you get a PhD in dueling, all you're going to do is teach other people how to duel, and all that does is creates more PhDs in dueling.
Yep. Investment in our education. That's what Kaiba did. Kaiba Cup returning in early November. It's been a while since the last Kaiba Cup, and it was one of the most popular events. There's a note about how people who reach King of Games in the 21st season will get an automatic invitation to Stage 2. Season 21 is October, so damn it, because I got it this season instead. So you can get King of Games in the upcoming month to give yourself a head start.
Yeah, so as you guys might recall from last time in the Kaiba Cup, there's a two-stage process, and the first stage is you make it to King of Games, and then that gives you a quote, invite to Stage 2, where you just kind of keep playing, and then you get points based on how well you do in Stage 2. So it's kind of like if we have any other friends who play Hearthstone, you get to Legend, and then you're within Legend, you're competing to be number 1 Legend. So in this time around, they're giving you essentially 2 seasons to get that invitation to the second part. So if your October is looking more clear than your November because you're less of a Halloween family and more of a Thanksgiving one, or whatever, you've got a couple chances to make it into Stage 2, which I think was a pretty cool way to reward players who are talented but maybe don't have all the time, which was one of the things that I noticed about the first KC Cup, where the people who were making it were pretty much playing 18-hour days or whatever, to try to keep up. So it's pretty crazy to kind of force people to do that. And I mean, I guess you don't have too much of a choice because you're trying to narrow down millions of players to 2. But I do like this as a small way to mitigate that, at least.
Yep. And finally, new legendary duelists at the gate in early November, and these are Pegasus and the Paradox Brothers. So they'll finally be farmable for cards. We don't know the rewards at the moment, but we can expect some of the same ones we got during the events. It could also be the end of their special events. I guess we want to end this by... I guess we have to... Yeah. Before I even typed this in, I was going to say that. We want to thank Konami. They took all of our feedback, and they gave us a ton of stuff. The game's a lot better. The community's quiet. They're not complaining yet. Everyone seems happy.
Yeah, I think that they did an amazing job. Like you said, they took a lot of our feedback. You mentioned earlier that they very readily quashed the whole co-money meme thing, at least at this point, and they've just done a really good job with this update. I still think it was probably a little bit early to be doing a whole new world less than 1 year out from the game launch, but I think they did an amazing job in implementing that decision to do so. So just hats off to them.
Yep, we're pretty happy. So yeah, that's it for today. You can find us on the App Store, Google Play, Stitcher, and other things. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel, so check us out there. Help support us, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email with any questions at theduelassessment@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at GreenRanger HS, and DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.
All right, have fun.